Kiss My Chaos. Taking stories of trauma into triumph while living life in the middle and everything in between. All views are expressed solely of the host, guests, and for entertainment purposes only. You don't like it? Well, you can kiss our chaos. Here are your hosts, Abigail Dark and DT Hudson.
Welcome back to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. You got us in the middle of an argument. Abby says her voice was flat. Nah, I disagree. Of course, I'm deaf, so I just play bass.
So our band did the intro song to our podcast, and that last sustainable note is like nails on a chalkboard to me. So this was like a rough band, playing in a basement. I never thought that it was going to be like played to the world on a podcast, but here we are. And so my perfectionist brain is like, it's not right.
And now everybody in the world that didn't notice it now knows.
Now they will listen for it.
Well, I'll just cut it off.
That's okay.
Right when it comes to that note, boom, done. Cut off.
Hard stop. Well, that's good.
Hard stop. We're out.
We could start the fade a little earlier, maybe. I don't know.
Well, there's two spots where I don't think it's flat, but there's two spots in it because it's at the intro and at the outro.
Oh, well, whatever. We'll just.
I'll sing the
now you know it.
I'll dove it in the music software, and I'll sing the last note like 4 octaves lower.
Oh, okay.
Fire, fire.
You would too.
I would. Don't challenge me, for sure. Hey, what do we got going on today?
Well, we have Brianna here, which I am really excited about hers. I mean, I'm always excited, but I feel like her story is kind of similar to my story in a way. A lot of triumph in there. I saw a lot of similarities when she sent me her story. And I love that she works with Troy White, a former guest of ours.
Cool dude.
Very cool. Just very selfless, running beyond the barriers and his upstream enterprise that he's doing in his nonprofit, doing the good deeds, the good work. And you have joined him in that, which I think is fantastic. When I saw that you were with it, I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Brianna.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. This is both exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time, but here we are. Here we are. Well, where to start? Born June 26th. No, just kidding. So I grew up a small town outside of the Fargo-Moorhead area. I'm the oldest of 2 girls, and life as a child was great. We were your average middle-class family. My parents both worked. My mom, the office manager for the local probation office. That will become relevant probably later. And my dad worked for the city. And life was good. I graduated, a little bit of perfectionism, I suppose, but overachiever, so to speak, in high school, went to college, and college met a guy the first week, and we hit it off. He later would become my husband. My story, it's hard to avoid, involves, part of a lot of the chaos, to be honest, involves, my relationship with alcohol. Growing up, it was in the house, but it was not, overly used. I viewed it as just a normal part of life. College was college. I was introduced being that I had this boyfriend who was a year older. He was social. He had friends that enjoyed partying, and that became, again, part of what I thought was very normal.
Part of that is small town life too.
Part of that is small town life.
I think when you grow up in a small town, there's like, partying in a field is normal. Like parents allowing you to have a graduation party out in the middle of a field is normal.
Dirt roads are your best friends too, road tripping. Exactly.
Yes. We had marijuana growing wild. Behind our you guys always talk about small towns. I don't.
Gone to your town.
Your town was a city compared to the town I grew up by. So. 103 people total at the time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I can attest to that. Like growing up in Newland, Minnesota, there was a lot of that. And it just seemed like, drinking and doing all of that stuff was normal. And you know what it is for a lot of people. And it's like a healthy thing that they do. And it's a social thing that they do. But for some people coming out of that, it depends on how your life goes after that.
I think it's a balance.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of peer pressure, but in the same token, I mean, that's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
It's just something people do. And it depends on how it's done. Like you talk about a field. I mean, you're not in downtown Fargo or you're downtown somewhere where there's hundreds or thousands of people. And I don't know.
And for some, like it created, some cool memories back in the day. And then like, it's not a problem until it becomes a problem.
You're exactly right. I look back at, photographs and they are filled with fun memories and of happy times. And, as life progressed, we got married young. I was 22. He was 23. And life was wonderful. I reflect back a lot on, the significance of wedding vows and just the deep connection that I had when those words were spoken. And that's been part of the pain, I think, as the last 5 years in particular have created a lot of challenges. We welcomed our first daughter in 2008, Carly. She is and has always been just an amazing human, small, medium, or now almost adult. And couldn't be prouder of her. She too has had some chaos in her story, but is doing remarkably well, thankfully. My second daughter was born in 2012, Noelle. She had the biggest brown eyes. I guess some would say she reminded them of me. And after she turned 1, she was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which meant emergency brain surgery down in St. Paul. And so that is, thankfully too, been very non-disruptive. She's balanced her condition. She does have a medically implanted shunt that is now almost 13 years old. And she's just a remarkable girl. She loves books more than I think her mom sometimes, but that's being a teenager, I suppose. And then my baby came in 2015, May, and May is the bookend of all things wonderful. And so these girls, have weathered just an upheaval of their world, and all things aside, are doing very, very, very well. So I'm grateful for that.
When do you think the turn happened? When the alcohol became a problem? I know you had stated a little bit of going through some emotional turmoil along with some of the alcohol part. Walk us through that.
Yeah. Throughout our marriage, even, the pregnancies and after with, new babies, my ex-husband and I definitely, drank. It was daily. It wasn't, over the top, but it was definitely part of our marriage. It's how we socialized with neighbors. It's how we celebrated the good times and coped with the hard times. And I would say, in that relationship, now being 5 years removed, there was always a feeling of, am I good enough? Am I earning enough money? Am I, thin enough? Am I, a good mom. You know, it was just this inadequacy that at the time I didn't recognize. And honestly, again, it was my normal. 2020, you know, pandemic, COVID, the best time of everyone's life, was really a turning point. You know, I was home with the 3 little girls, and at the time working as a leader of HR for an organization going through an acquisition. And the most important part of that acquisition was to ensure all of the employees that we were acquiring came over. And I spent many, many nights and early mornings on the phone. I was orchestrating distance learning. My ex-husband was deemed an essential function, and so he was out of the home all day, every day. And for me, alcohol really became that alleviator of all of the yuck that was happening, whether it be, you know, stress, whether it be anxiety. I think depression started to creep in as well. And at that same time, my husband had been asking if I would ever consider moving to his parents' lake home. And it had been a topic that had come up pretty casually a time here and there, but that was the year that it really became like a pressure cooker kind of thing. And he had conversations with his parents. And again, I think this feeling of inadequacy that I had had with our marriage for years, I really felt like doing that would make things perfect, would make things wonderful. And so that summer, we were able to work it out where we were going to sell our home here, a home that we had built. I saw myself getting old, gray and toothless there, but we moved. And the process of moving and selling all of our belongings and still working insane hours really started to show itself in ways that rather than drinking casually, it became a necessity. And so there was hiding of alcohol, there was drinking all hours of the day. It was medicine for me at a time of complete, chaos, right? So
Right.
it was what worked until it didn't.
You weren't given any healthy coping mechanisms, essentially,
Correct.
like after. Now, do you think the feelings of inadequacy, do you think that was kind of was it your doing, or do you feel like, you know, you were screaming for help, but yet nobody was coming?
I think it was probably a bit of both. You know, I did this speech a year before the pandemic that was huge. It was for a community through a very well-known organization. And, you know, I spent months prepping and planning and putting things together. And, you know, when the event happened, I looked down at my table of family and close friends, and my ex-husband was on his phone. And after that speech, I remember asking for, you know, feedback, approval, seeking some form of positive recognition, and that wasn't there. And I think, back to your question, it was a little bit of both. I mean, I definitely felt that I could use some coping skills, didn't know where to get them. Everything was, you know, shut down and closed, but then not getting it from my partner, again, that I took vows very seriously with, not showing up in ways that would have really been supportive.
Do you think that he probably had kind of checked out by then?
I do. I think factually, so to play the tape forward a bit, when we made the move, his parents had still not moved out. And so there was all of us closely living together in a house that was complete disorder. Everything was totes. The kids were starting school. I was continuing on the struggle bus, and I made the decision to try treatment that fall. And so that was the first time I was ever away from my children for more than maybe 48 hours. I was terrified. I had no idea what to expect. And when I was being dropped off by my, again, husband at the time, I'll never forget the words that he said. He said, "Don't call us, focus on yourself." And so I had this to-do item of not even contacting my family in the most terrifying moment of my entire life.
When I think you felt like you needed the support of your family back home, even though you were there, I know that he meant well with it, but I think at the same time, you wanted to know that back home they were supporting you and that you could reach out to them at any time. Because I think as a mother, if I'm envisioning going through recovery, they're my world. And if I think like they're going to survive just fine without me, then why am I here?
Right. Exactly. That's the emptiness that I felt. And, you know, if you've ever been to treatment or you've known someone who's gone to treatment, that is an important part of the process, is involving family and educating family. And that was something that for me was looked at as a negative from my person of 20 years at that point. And so no surprise, got out and was received coldly. I remember returning to this new home, and all of my responsibilities as a mother had been replaced by my mother-in-law at the time. Laundry, meal prep, all of that stuff. And I felt very lost. And of course, relapsed. And I decided, I don't know if I decided, if I'm being truthful, but I got in contact with my parents, who I'm very close with, and decided to come have a weekend at their home, the home I grew up in. And I was there Friday night. Saturday morning, I woke up, and I remember the look on my dad's face that morning. And he said, you need to sit down. And he said, "I don't know if you've heard anything, but I need you to know before it happens," he said, "but a sheriff will be showing up at our house sometime today with divorce papers." And that was the major turning point in how the next several years played out.
I can't even imagine.
What type of, prior to you going into treatment, what type of conversations were you having with the family prior to going in there? Because those are difficult conversations, I'm sure.
They are very difficult conversations. I recall sometime between coming home from treatment and being served papers, I sat down with my ex-husband, his parents, my parents, and I tried to lay out for them a recovery plan. Like, these are the things that I am going to commit to and I want to commit to, but here are the things that I need from you. Oftentimes I was being followed when I left the home, kind of micromanaged to ensure that I wasn't doing things or going places that I shouldn't. And if anyone's ever been in that situation, it can be extremely, extremely triggering. But I remember laying out kind of what I had hoped for this phase of recovery, and things did not improve, obviously, which is a big part of why I came back to my parents for the weekend. With my ex-husband specifically, I think he was scared, but he was also unwilling to learn about the disease of addiction. I remember we tried couples counseling once, and he wanted to talk nothing about our relationship, but more about my mistakes and alcohol, keeping in mind that all the while he was still consuming as well.
Deflecting because he didn't want to live in a sober world, maybe?
He'd have to face what you're facing, and he doesn't want to face it.
He did not want to face it, and still doesn't to this day. So
that is a hard thing. I know my husband and I went through very similar situation. He was an alcoholic, and then 2020, I had some major issues with booze, like for a while, and he got sober. I didn't. I did not think that I had a huge problem. I would binge when I did drink, but I didn't need it. I didn't have to have it throughout the week, so I didn't think there was a problem. So I never dealt with it. But there were a few instances that I remember just putting on headphones and grabbing a whiskey bottle, and I'd go in the basement, and I was laying on the floor. I was so drunk, and I was listening to the song, just bawling in a room. Like, I look back on that now, and I'm like, how fucking pathetic was I?
I don't condone it, but you wrote some good music.
I did write some good shit. That's the one thing I miss about the booze.
Well,
I was really good at lyrics when I was like drunk.
It takes down a barrier, but it's temporary, and then you try and read your writing the next day. It's like, I got to start typing this.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, and that was something that I had to face when we were doing our couples counseling, where it became a problem because he, on my 40th birthday, he asked me for a divorce. And so I had to face, like, is what I'm doing that bad? I didn't even know that there was a problem. Like I knew there were issues, but I didn't know there was a problem. And so I would imagine like him focusing on your, like, the alcohol part, if it was like the lies, he viewed it as essentially like lies or infidelity, like you were not being truthful in the marriage. So he's just hyper focusing on it, following you around, making sure you're not doing this or that.
Truth.
Rather than trying to help you through your recovery.
Well, it's something they had in common.
Right.
It's something you
Trauma
did
bond.
together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had built our marriage with alcohol very much involved. In fact, when Noelle, my middle daughter, was born, I recall him showing up to the hospital with a small lunch cooler with Blue Moon. It was just part of the story.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't know how, like, you can't envision when you first stop drinking, right? You can't envision life without the booze.
Right.
Like, that is, it's so far-fetched. Like, that first month that I quit drinking, my company took me on a trip to Mexico. Oh, no. All inclusive. I'm like, this could not suck any more than it sucks right now, going there knowing I would have to be sober. But in all reality, I look back on it now. I woke up in the morning and those sunrises were beautiful, the sound of the waves. I'd go swimming, and like, I enjoyed the trip because I remembered it.
All of it.
All of it.
Yes.
And that was the turning point where I was like, I can do this. I can do the hard things, but like, I can see where you're like, you just feel so betrayed when somebody is not willing to go through that with you when you took a vow, right?
100%. And the loss at that point was, it was huge. I lost my marriage. I lost my home. I lost my children. That was part of the reality as well, is as the divorce proceeded in Minnesota, when you, as a married unit, move children for even 24 hours, that becomes their permanent residence, which, being that home was his parents and has been in his family for decades, my rights to it were, nil. And so trying to fathom life now without the three legs of the stool in my life, the core, the support, or so I thought, the children, the home, it was overwhelming. And I turned to, the faithful friend, to not have to feel those things, to feel that loss. That resulted, unfortunately, mental health continued to be a massive struggle for me. The divorce was incredibly stressful. In discovery, I was able to view his lawyer's retainer check, which was written almost the same time that we closed on the home. So
he had it
planning
That's
was
some
involved.
dirty shit there. I'm sorry. Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that was his
So this
plan
was
all
happening.
along.
This was happening no matter what.
It was, yes. My dad, who was a huge support throughout that process, I remember when we saw the check at the attorney's office, I had to get up and literally get air and just another nail, I guess, in that coffin that I had hoped would last forever.
Right. He was never willing to work on the relationship. It was doomed before it had even, before you.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
It's, I just have to ask, I mean, looking back now, what are the signs you saw about that? I mean, were there changes? I'm assuming there was.
Yeah, I did some really hard work last summer with a phenomenal therapist, and we went there, and I hadn't before, but there were definite examples of emotional abuse. Financial abuse was a big one. He would take away my debit and credit cards, my checkbook. I would get blasted if I went to grab coffee during the middle of the day because he's in banking. And so watching our account all day, every day became kind of a hobby, I think, for him. And that was for years. Signs when we moved, just a continued lack of appreciation for, selling all of our belongings and taking care of all of that transitional stuff. Expecting that I would feel just elated, moving into a house of storage tubs with, my in-laws. And I didn't. So there were definite signs of him disengaging and not caring.
It's interesting to me. In one of your darkest times, you went to your parents, you went to family. Mm-hmm. And this may or not be the right analogy, but so did he. He just happened to bring you with.
Right. Yeah. That's
wow.
A really good point.
Do you think that, I mean, he's a banker, so somehow did he come out better financially because he did it in that way? That's what I'm thinking. He's got banker's brain, and he seems like a narcissist, so I highly doubt he was thinking in your best interest.
The house itself.
Yeah,
nailed it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously, the divorce took about a year to work through. It's so sad to think back to, again, just my investment in this human and laying on the bedroom floor at my parents, pleading and begging for him to change his mind. And I was willing to do anything and everything if I thought that it would save our marriage. And part of that was we're not talking about this with the kids. And so that went on for months. But throughout the divorce, yes, he has a very expensive lake home, which makes sense. He was extremely unhappy with how assets were divided. Thought that was totally unfair. He was very happy, as I mentioned, with the child situation, because I had to make a very hard decision throughout the divorce where, as they were calculating child support, I would need to decide, do I want to try and establish a life in Alexandria where I had no family, no friends, no support, or stay back in the area where I had lived my entire life with friends, family, support. And making that decision obviously would mean I would have much less time with my girls. And I had to make the decision, and I chose to live here. I thought I had a better chance of survival if I chose to live here. And so child support was calculated then with him being the primary, because who would side on a mom who in his description was nothing but an alcoholic versus the father. And so I ended up also paying him child support, and that he was very, very pleased with.
Now I'm getting pissed off. What the hell is wrong with the system?
Obviously
Abby, say
showing you're
something.
going. Obviously showing that you're like in recovery, actively trying to get
I
better.
was trying so hard.
You're self-admitted. That is the responsible thing. You're self-admitted and you're doing something about it, yet the other individual denies it, and they're calling the other person an alcoholic when they're an alcoholic too, and they do nothing to correct it.
But the problem with that whole system is that, like, whether it's depression, anxiety, like, why should people be penalized for that? I mean, like, I understand that alcoholism can sometimes be a safety issue for children.
Sure.
You know, but then why was he not evaluated?
That doesn't sound like the case here.
right. At all.
The case
No,
was
like
these are loved children.
So was the conversation like ever had with your children? Like, I'm not sure what ages they were when this was occurring, but I know sometimes in the realm of divorce, and if it's ugly and if there's things going on, were conversations ever had with them? Like, whether it was from him or from you, or how did that go when you had to tell them, like, I need to be sober, and the best way for me to be sober is to be here, which means I have less time with you. Like, how did that play out?
It played out like a fart in church, actually. Right. So the girls at the time, my oldest was 12, middle would have been 8, and baby would have been 5. And at this point in the divorce, and this has been consistently played out since, I was no longer allowed to set foot in my home. And so he insisted that we meet at a park. It was a rainy day, and sat the girls down at picnic tables. And basically he said, Mom's not coming home ever. And this had gone on. So he served my papers in December. By the time we talked to the girls, obviously it was raining, so it was spring. So this madness carried on for months of, questions of, Mom, when are you coming home? Mom, are you coming home? And I was handcuffed. I couldn't say anything because he held the power card at that point.
Those poor girls.
He's held just this part of your story. He's held the power card for years, and now he's using these kids as leverage. Okay, so I'm wrong. The kids are being abused in a way because these kids are now leverage. And I tell you, that makes me so mad.
It's not fair to them.
No, it is not. It has nothing to do with them.
So as they have gotten older, have you seen where they recognize some of these things?
Simply within the last year, I can very quickly summarize 2001 to 2024 as the blackout. Life was very, very hard. And I ended up buying a very tiny home in a retirement-ish community in North Moorhead, and I love it. I ended up meeting someone in 2022, Tyler, who has been my faithful rock, despite having put him through worse things than I did my husband. He is faithful and committed. But the blackout was very much more treatment. I secured 3 DUIs, regrettably, within that time period as well. And last spring, it got to the point where I was no longer in a position to choose, and was sent away for 4 months of treatment. And it saved my life. It saved my life. And the girls, to answer your question, in the last year, it's as if this veil has been lifted for all of us. They see the hard work. They see what it's been like. Their father has not changed his ways, but I have arrived at this point of beautiful acceptance that when we think about power, I have it now. And it's not to be used maliciously or ill-intended. It is truly meant for the child's best interests. And the girls are back with me, unsupervised. He insisted that I take these breathalyzer tests for him, which at this point it's fine. Again, radical acceptance. At one point he wanted hair follicles, which again,
for God's sakes.
Yeah, no.
we're divorced.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
You don't
You
have
don't
any
need it.
He doesn't have
You know what?
any.
You're divorced, and that's the connection you have as the kids.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, kids are smart. They figure it out at
They
some
do.
point.
They do.
And that takes away that power too. Go count pennies at the bank. Go worry about that.
Right.
You know what? Let people live their lives. You don't want to be married? Then don't continue to be married to me.
Right. Exactly.
He doesn't get to control that anymore.
No, he doesn't. And, there are things as I look back on that, again, we're divorced, but yet he still had this vested interest in, I should have the GPS thing on when I'm doing breathalyzers, and it's 3 years removed. And it continued to set me back. And it wasn't until May 15th, 2025 that I finally was able to release all of that shit.
Good.
And
Good for you.
you talk about a weight loss journey. That was my significant weight loss. And life has been amazing. I can't speak enough about the work that I'm doing today. I know we talked about Troy. I can't say enough incredible things about the kind of human he is. And, a big draw for our partnership was my passion to get back into the jails. And, my mom, as I mentioned, worked her entire career in corrections. Well, I spend a lot of time there, both personally but professionally. And I can smile at that now. It's again, just a life changer. And when I meet with clients now who are where I was, I feel this sense, it's almost become a supernatural power to know that they are possible, that they can do this. And to have someone that's sitting, holding their hand, who has that exact or similar lived experience is a gift that never, ever gets old.
It is a superpower. It is. I've talked about this before, where I can sit in the lobby of the VA and pick people out, like that individual. It's like they don't have a glow, they don't have an aura, the light's not behind their eyes.
Yep.
Can come back, but you got to put in the work.
Absolutely.
And good on you. This thus far is one of the most courageous things I've heard, because you have so many elements, and it's almost like, to me, you're describing all I have is the chaos. That's all I have. I'm moving. The kids, this, divorce, alcohol being a crutch, and then realizing that alcohol crutch breaks every now and then you got to rebuild it. And unbelievable. I give so much credit to you. That's difficult.
I'm so excited you found self-worth.
Oh, absolutely.
I think like that clarity is, and when you find that, it is the most beautiful thing where you just feel like it's cheesy to say, but that weight just drops off and you're like, I don't give a shit what you want anymore.
Do you remember when we had Scott Geiselhart on here?
Yeah.
After his treatment, he goes, I drove home and I noticed the sunflower field that's been there all year. And he goes, I stopped my car and I just went out in it. It's like he noticed it. He's like,
There is absolutely beauty in everything. And I was driving a client around the other day, and there were these clouds that honestly appeared as if there was a mountain in the distance. And I showed them to her, and she just broke down into tears. And, she's at the very early stages of finding that health and that recovery. And it's such a gift. And, I find it's funny, even in things that used to really piss me off have now become either comical or just,
Yep.
It is what it is. You know,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Is it going to matter in a year?
Because
It's
you've been through
not.
such hard shit that stuff is just like whatever.
Whatever.
You know?
Do you find
Right.
do you find that you have a lack of patience for like if I do for the guy? It's like I know a lot of retired people, and it's no knock on the retired people that I hang out with because those are my homies, but I hear them create the biggest drama and crap out of the smallest things that shouldn't even exist. Like they've created it, and then they talk about it for months. It's like, oh my God, you guys, I don't even.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
You know, my ex-husband, and then we'll be done knocking on him, but he was a very glass half empty individual. Like things were never good enough. They never amounted to what his expectations were. And that is completely draining. And so if I am in the space with someone who just can't find the positive, I have to peace out. Like
Yep.
it's just
That's the boundary you have
it's
to
the
do.
boundary.
It's
Yep.
so easy to get drug across that line, and it's hard to get
Absolutely.
back.
Absolutely.
I mean, misery truly does love company. and
100%.
They're looking for somebody to commiserate with. I'm not that guy. I'm like, yeah, well, what about this? And then it's back and forth until you just beat them down with positivity.
Well, you can't make someone happy who can't make.
Well, they don't wanna
Who
be.
is unhappy with themselves in their life. They're
Correct.
always going to find that next thing that they're miserable about.
And you know what? So what? Okay, you are a half empty glass type person. Respect what the other person's not. You know, there's a middle ground here.
Absolutely.
There absolutely is. And, you know, as I think about the power of the self, you know, the brain, my brain, being completely overtaken by alcoholism, to the point of healing and being able to control my thoughts, my behaviors, my actions, you know, those are things that were completely hijacked for so many years. And when it became, you know, unfortunately for my story, a physical dependency, it took a lot of time. And again, I'm so grateful to have been extracted on vacation and treatment for the months that I was, because that was the rebuild of Brianna's brain. And I will never, ever undervalue that or hurt it willingly again.
Sounds to me like you got your identity back.
I don't know if it's back or if it's new.
So one thing my wife always said, and she tells veterans, and we talk at a veterans organization, she goes, your life will never be the same. It'll be better. And I never really knew what that meant. And I do now. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're right. It's nowhere near what it was, but it's better.
Exactly.
And I had to, you know what? I got my identity back, and then I actually learned some more things about myself that I didn't realize. So I'm still building it. I think you always build your identity, don't you?
I think it's really beautiful to have that desire.
Right.
You know, I have clients that, you know, in current form and state, their desire is non-existent. And to have that desire is a gift. And to have that yearning to want to continue to be better, to do better, is such a beautiful thing.
I agree. Awesome. Well said.
I think we need to title this episode The Blackout. I love how you described that, because when you are in the midst of a horrible situation and chaos, that's all you can see. That's the only fixation. You are in this complete blackout. And then, you know, at certain points, there were little pieces of light, your family, you know, your friends, the people that supported you through it, your treatment. And then eventually the black lifts and you have the light. And like you said, the clouds, the things around you. How freeing and how wonderful.
Do you remember what I sent you the other day? You just described it, and you were bad-mouthing it. No, you didn't bad-mouth it. It's an African proverb, and it says, if all you have is a hammer, all you're going to see is nails. If that's the only tool you'll have. And you're like, well, you can do a couple, and you're rationalizing it to me. It's like, well, you can pound or you can pull the nails out. I go, it doesn't matter.
Well, I meant with the nails, you know, I'm thinking in terms of There are multiple ways to use a.
You just, yeah, I know. And I'm like, I shouldn't even have sent
tool.
I shouldn't even have sent this to Abby.
I'm a fixer.
Yeah, you are.
I
She
love
is.
that. Yeah.
But it's just what you described. It's like blackout. That's all you're going to focus on. You have a hammer. That's your only tool. You're just going to look for things you can use the hammer on. Mm-hmm. I mean, and nails.
That is. I mean, if you're like you had described at the beginning, you're a perfectionist and you're, like you have a certain way of you, like you love achieving and you like the words of affirmation. And if you don't have that in your life, you have nothing to cling to and you have nothing to get that from.
I can't explain, unless you've been in the situation, the feeling of loss of children, and loss of children to, death is horrendous and painful. But my loss felt like they were gone, but still existing on earth. And I had no connection to them. I couldn't.
That's torture.
My DUIs, were awful. But the response from my ex-husband was again to the fullest of full, putting me through, and the girls through supervised visitations, which was scoring in and of itself. I mentioned my oldest daughter had some chaos in her testimony with an eating disorder. And his response in her recovery was almost the same as it was in mine, except he can't divorce his daughter. But making her feel guilty, micromanaging her food intake, limiting her activity, and it has scarred her, but it has brought us closer in that she understands how the brain becomes addicted to, hers is food restriction, mine was alcohol, but addictions look the same inside the brain when it comes to that fixation and that complete overhaul of focus. And so we've really been able to come together in that space too, which has been just a true gift.
In your capacity now, how rewarding is it to see someone that you're sitting with succeed?
It's the best part of any day. It truly is. And, it's the big wins, seeing someone get housed who's been homeless for, months on end. What a gift. But seeing someone achieve something even small, like completing an application for a job and then getting an interview. My decades of HR experience, I felt a little guilty walking away from all of that, but I knew staying in that might not keep me on this path of health and healing. But it's definitely presented itself in a very beneficial way in that my clients, they all have beautiful resumes. They all know they have to sit down and mock interview. There are things that have played themselves very positively in that space. A lot of them have never been in a position where they have a voice to negotiate. And those are also some of my best days when I can be that advocate for someone.
Absolutely.
That, years before would have just said, okay, and it's just awesome. That's the best word I can use to describe it. It's
You get to give them self-worth.
That's well said.
You
Yes.
get to give them and to give back what you have received. And that is the best feeling that anybody can do. And I think also contributes to your recovery, I would imagine.
1,000%. 1,000%. I have a client who, as you mentioned, Troy does a lot with Beyond the Barriers, which is a weekly program in the Cass County Jail, men's and women's, talking a lot about changing how we think about things to change the result, to, eventually be in that practice every day as things come our way. And there was a woman in the class recently who is now in our community doing well. But we were together earlier in the week and she's like, I figured it out, Brianna. She said, I knew you looked familiar when I met you at Beyond the Barriers. She said, we were in jail together. And as we played that backwards, it's like, yeah, we were. And, there's another woman I've stayed in contact with who I bonded with in jail. She went and did some prison time, and now she's out in our community and she's doing just phenomenal things. But, these are friends. I can call them friends. And it's always kind of that little twinkle in each of our eyes, just, wanting to tell people, want to know how we met? Because there's special things that happen when you are sitting for your mistakes.
You should never the one thing that I think about in our society is they think of the people that are incarcerated as the forgotten, as the people that are like, oh, they're incarcerated. But how do you
troubled.
break the troubled? How do you break the cycle?
The
and that's what Troy does. And that's what
Yes.
you do is you're breaking that cycle. So, I mean, as much as it sounds, making the world a better place is better for the officers on the street. You're trying to figure out where the disconnect is from the jail to getting these people in jobs because they've never been taught or given a chance to do that. They don't know how.
I love working obviously with people. I've built my life on that. But as I've moved into this chapter, women in particular are my jam. I love making women feel seen and heard and giving them confidence. And, as I have grieved time lost with my own girls, there is a beautiful strength that comes from someone telling you who never had a mother figure maybe in her life that she loves me as if I was her mother. And having that hole in my heart, not filled, but it's healing and it's bandaged, and being able to experience that is just another unexpected, you can call it employee perk, of doing what I do.
I think it's beneficial, 100%, that you did have those experiences, whether it be incarcerated or not, because it validates things. You can say, I've been there. I have legitimately been there, because I think honesty is being honest with someone in that situation. They're vulnerable.
Right.
And being honest and saying, look, I can prove it to you.
Exactly.
It went through it. And whether there's a connection or not, it's valid.
It's valid. I can't tell you the number of hours, probably weeks, that I have spent with each, I'll call it a hiccup, right? Like, why is this happening in my life? Why is this part of my story? Because nobody chooses to wake up and burn their life down. I mean, that's insanity. It happens. It's a sickness and a disease. But my questioning of why, I had everything. My life looked perfect. Why? And I will tell you, working with the clients in the field that I do, every day answers that question thoroughly. This is why you went through what you did, so that you can connect with people who need you when they are at that point questioning the same thing.
And you had said the loss of your girls, but I think it was such a small part in time that you have the rest of your life with your daughters.
I do.
And you have built, I mean, what a gift for them to have you, because you've been through such horrible things that I have the utmost faith that you're going to guide them to be the best humans that you know possible, because you are demonstrating that. And down the road, as they grow, as they get older, they are going to see you as a stability because of your strength and because you've shown them, like, I have gotten over some really hard shit and I can show you how to do that.
Exactly. And perfection is always an illusion.
100% illusion.
Always an illusion.
Does not exist. Mm-hmm. It does not exist. And there's people out there that will torture themselves mentally to death trying to be perfect, and they'll never achieve it.
1000%.
And you know what? If it was perfect, no one would know, because that's perception. Because because it wouldn't be perfect in my mind. And you're not flat on the song. That's what I'm saying. See, you walked into that one, Abby.
Full circle.
Boom. Only
is
took
not about
53
me,
minutes to get to
remember?
it.
Yeah.
I waited like a little sniper for it. Actually, I just thought of it. But no, it's true.
Well played.
It wasn't trying to, but it just kind of worked out that way. Yeah, perfection it's probably one of the worst words out there because, I mean, I do a lot of laser art and I see every imperfection in it. I'm like, and I finally came to the realization, I go, it's never going to be perfect, but you know what? We'll call it my interpretation. You know, I'll put an accidental mark on it and no one will notice it. You sing the wrong notes during a set or a gig. No one notices except you.
True.
You know,
True.
it's just, it's a mindset you have to get into. It's like, that's unattainable. It's not realistic, but we're going to do the best we can.
100%. I really got motivated, passive aggressive, perhaps. I'm working on it. But I wanted to show up to court in January when we were reevaluating everything. And I wanted to make a statement. And I wore a shirt to court that said imperfectly perfect. I debated between that one and broken crayons still color, but both are true. So
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Broken crayons do color, pencils colored, and it's what you do with them. It's what you create with them. What does my shirt say? I have one on today. I have all these cool shirts.
See, I speak through
Well,
t-shirts
today
too.
I'm morally flexible.
Heck yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Well, that leads me into, we always ask everyone a particular question. So if you could give our listeners any piece of advice, what would that be?
You know, as I think about the chaos that has been part of my testimony, my life, I really want to encourage listeners to sit with themselves and to look for the beauty around them because it does exist. It could be absolutely anything, but it's that training the brain, right, to acknowledge and then to feel that sense of gratitude. It's huge. Never ever stop trying. I think that's a huge piece of my sitting here is I just refuse to give up. And I had a counselor once tell me, because I think I was at the point of, you know, feeling embarrassed and shameful about, you know, the number of attempts that it was taking me to figure this out and to get it. And he looked me square in the eye and he said, Brianna, it takes what it takes. And so I encourage people to think about that. If things are not working, keep going. And it takes what it takes without deadline.
Absolutely. Some of the biggest inventors and stars in the world got turned down many times before they actually came up with something that made them famous.
Right.
You have to fail to succeed sometimes.
I wish we had this on video so you could watch her conviction when she gave that statement. Because
absolutely.
it was one of the most convicting statements I've heard. And what I took most out of that is allow yourself some happiness and peace. You're allowed that.
In the chaos.
In the chaos.
Yep.
You can't live in chaos every day. It's not sustainable.
Agreed.
1,000%.
I learned a lot today.
I did too.
You're a brave woman. You have taken some courageous steps, and you've taken these things which you could have just thrown away and started living your life again, but you're using them to help other people and yourself. And there's no greater gift that you can do is to invest in your fellow human. And that's exactly what you're
I am
doing.
so grateful.
Oh,
So fortunate.
Clearly, you can tell you're grateful. And focus. Wow. This has been a great day for me.
It was an honor.
It just
for us.
got better. I was tired. Now I'm not. Now I'm wide awake.
I'm so grateful for being here and for this conversation. Man, I was sweating when I came in, but this has been cathartic in lots of ways.
A lot of people say that when they come on the podcast, and then they realize it's just Dan and Abby.
It's just us.
We don't, you know,
My dark room.
The goal here is not to pin people down on tough questions. The last question we have is designed to come from the heart. And
Yeah.
that was from the heart. I mean, that was by definition. I should have turned on the little recorder there.
Like I said, so much of it is, I resonate with you because so much of it is so similar to mine. My mantra in life is there's beauty in the darkness.
100%.
And I have always stood by that. And I think,
My wife says I look better in the dark too. So.
well, now that you don't have your gray sweatpants. Thanks, Angie.
Got rid of it. Next time you see her, you have to ask her about my mustards. I had yellow ones. I would not
I
give
was like,
them.
I don't know if I want to ask about your mustard.
My mustard. Well, when they got really ragged at the bottom, I cut them off and made them mustard shorts. They were bright yellow, and
Yeah.
she's like, "God, I hate those stupid pants."
We're with you, Angie. We're
She wasn't wrong.
going to gang up.
I'm
on
really
them.
into thrifting. So,
Oh, she is
Angie, if you leave
She's a thrift queen. I would say 99% of her outfits, and the girls put together. She's like, we never pay full price.
we may be able to hunt down your stuff.
Oh yeah.
Secretly. See, that's the addict
Give
in
him
me,
ideas.
right?
Right? You know, Angie thought that this was over. Like,
Oh, she's always up for thrifting. That girl. Oof. I tell you what, she has the whole upstairs of our house. That's her getting ready area. So,
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Good girl. I mean, go for it. And,
Yeah.
and she's good at it. And it's fun to watch. And every now and then I find something too. I don't go every time, but every now and then I find a little goodie for myself. So.
It's good to see a good guy. I spent too long with a not good guy, and now I have a good guy, and you recognize good guys really easily, and that's pretty great.
he is a good guy. Well, thank you, Brianna, for
Yes.
being here today.
Thank you
Awesome.
both so
Yeah.
much.
Hey, we got some more stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. Couple of weeks. You're in charge of that, not me.
In a week, yes.
In a week. That'll be exciting. It's going to be a surprise.
Yeah, surprised because I'm not going to look at my phone right now because I can't remember
I do. I
what
remember.
I have next week.
I know who it is.
I don't remember what I did yesterday.
I know
let
who it
alone-
is. And I've been actually formulating a lot of very particular questions that are, I think, focused on what it takes to be a public servant and and how it opens your whole life up, and people can be keyboard warrior malicious, and
Oh man, yeah, that
it's horrible.
some of those. It's like
I will
no
tell you
matter-
this.
Ugh.
I tell you this. They picked the wrong person because this person fights back.
Yes, they do.
It was funny to go through, and it's like, oh, that guy's going to get it. So, all right, everybody, until next time, had a great time today.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we speak with some of the most intriguing people about their journey from trauma to triumph. If you find yourself in mental crisis, please seek professional medical help immediately.